gamer fans? Well, time to once again put those Wii remotes down because it's time for you guessed it, old versus new. And what better to do it on than the classic beat 'em up, Final Fight. So, which two are we going to compare? Well, we're going to compare Final Fight 1 and the counterpart on the Super NES, Final Fight. Just called Final Fight, that's it. So, which one is better? Well, let's take a deeper look. Final Fight 1 on the Game Boy Advance, or the counterpart, Final Fight. We'll start out with the graphics. Which game has better graphics? Well, the Super NES is no surprise that the graphics are pretty damn good for a beat 'em up. Just beating the shit out of things is so satisfying. The graphics were pretty damn good for the early 90s. But the Game Boy Advance, damn was it awesome. I mean, it was just as good. I mean, the Game Boy Advance was more powerful than the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis put together. I know I'm going to mention this a lot with comparing both the Super NES and a Game Boy Advance game, but it's true. So, it's tough to really decide, but, well, it's very rare, but I'm going to give points to both. Both the Game Boy Advance and the Super NES version get the point. Now for the overall sound. Which version has better sound? Well, of course, once again, this was not an easy decision, but the Super NES version had pretty damn good sound, which the nostalgia still holds up very well today. And yes, the "Oh my car" gag is still pretty funny. As for the Game Boy Advance version, well, yeah, not maybe as good. You know, it does have the same sound, but still the "Oh my car" gag is not as funny. I'm not going to give the point to the Super NES version just because of the "Oh my car" gag, but I just feel the Super NES version, well, the nostalgia holds up a lot better. As for this version, well, it's its only downside. So, point goes to the Super NES version. Now the overall controls. Which game has better controls? Well, this was once again a very tough decision. You know, both games, the controls work great. I mean, in both the Super NES and Game Boy Advance version, you have, of course, the punch, the grab, you know. As I mentioned before in my Batman Returns review, you can also move up and down, and that picks the enemy up and throws them or stomp on them, anything. Free joy moves, but of course that drains your health. It does in the Game Boy Advance version too. So, very tough decision, impossible to choose. Point goes to both, Game Boy Advance and the Super NES version. Now for the big question, which game has better gameplay? Okay, now, you want to know which game has better gameplay? Well, I'll be very elaborate as possible. This one, I'm sorry, does. Yeah, I know, I jumped the gun a bit, but let's take a look at the Super NES version. Not to be offensive or anything, but I just feel the Super NES version is just really hard. And too hard, in fact. The Game Boy Advance version, I've made it all the way and beaten the game all the way through. Even though the Super NES version, you can change it to easy mode. Even though it requires a cheat code, yeah, holding L and R. The Game Boy Advance version, it's right there. It makes it a little bit easier. And you know what? I don't mind that at all. Because I feel the Super NES version, well, it got a little too frustrating. But with the Game Boy Advance version, well, I was able to relax and simply enjoy this game. And actually, in the Game Boy Advance version, there's one extra level, and one extra character. Yeah, now that's cool. Obviously, this is based off an arcade counterpart, and this version follows it a lot better. And you know what? That's awesome. That beats the Super NES version by far. Plus, you have the awesome cutscenes before and after a level, too. and even the dialogue scenes in between both characters. Well, you don't hear them talking, but you see the words in quotes. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Not bad. So, I'm sorry to say, the point goes to the Game Boy Advance version. No offense, Super NES version. It's still fun, but too hard. This one beats it by far. So, yeah. This version's better. Not that the Super NES version's not bad. It's still fun, but very hard. But this version is very fun to play. But $20? I'm sorry, it's not worth it. But if you manage to pick this one up for, well, a cheaper price than $20, it's a good fun ride, you know? Give this one a chance. It's fun to play. One question, though. Where the hell is Final Fight 2? They never released Final Fight 2 or 3 on the Game Boy Advance. I mean, what the hell? Anyway, till next time, happy gaming.